Hi, everyone. It's Jim Hamill, host of Pocono Mountains Podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 6, the one with a little bit of madness. Madness Distillery and Tasting Rooms source spirits from all over the world for patients and guests to test. You heard me right. The spot in Bartonsville is part of the immersive experience business called Trapdoor. The owner's idea to provide escape room participants with a celebratory adult beverage after their experiences led to the distillery that's just a tad mad. Brianna Strunk has more on that in a bit. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions, with 2,400 square miles of mountains, forests, lakes, and rivers, with historic downtowns and iconic family resorts. It's the perfect getaway. You can always find out more on PoconoMountains.com or watch PTM, the Pocono Television Network, streaming live 24/7. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos. Subscribe to Pocono Mountains Podcast and leave a review and or comment on whatever platform you listen. Now back to the episode. Initially, Madness Distillery was just an after-game activity at Trapdoor, but as the owner, Tone, delved deeper into the process of creating unique and delicious cocktails, he realized his passion for distillation. Enjoy.
Thank you for joining us for this latest episode of Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm one of your hosts of the Pocono Television Network, Brianna Strunk, and we have had such a blast here today at Trapdoor, which is pretty much an escape room on steroids. And also the other side of the business is Madness Distillery, the newest member of the Pocono Beverage Trail. We are here with the owner of both of those businesses, Tone Perzicki. Thank you for having us here today.
Thank you for being here today. It was our pleasure.
We have had such a good day, but of course we want to share this with all of our viewers and our listeners. So we want to talk to you about Trapdoor, which of course is, we said this escape room on steroids, and also your distillery here. So we are sitting recording this in the distillery, and you've had us sample a few of these drinks. So I figured we'd start by talking about Madness Distillery. What do you think?
Absolutely. We haven't got you slurring enough words yet, so let's hammer some drinks out. Let's go.
Yeah, tell us about the drinks here and the atmosphere, because it's super unique.
So we really wanted to kind of elevate the tasting experience with the distilleries and bring a little bit more life to it. So we already had Trapdoor, and quite honestly, it came out of almost necessity. I hate that we're still kind of using the out of COVID scenario, but when everything had reopened from COVID, there was an element of we were getting a landslide of people coming in and they didn't want to go home. And we couldn't blame them because everybody was locked up for so long. So we really kind of started asking the question of what else could we give them to do? And we decided everybody liked just hanging out with us and kind of, shooting the breeze after and getting into like behind the scenes conversations. And we said, why not do it over cocktails?
And the drinks on your menu are super unique. So tell us about some of those.
We wanted to make sure they were all themed, and we played into the theming quite a bit. But I've also always had a little kind of toe in the water, we'll say, in the bar and spirit world. Growing up, my father owned a bar in Bayonne, New Jersey, and on weekends, I would go there on a Sunday morning, and he would clean the bar while I sat in the spirit room. And I always just had an interest in it. So growing up, really steered a lot into wine. My wife and I are huge wine connoisseurs. We've tasted, luckily, in a lot of spots all over the world. And I've always just loved spirits. I love the taste of them on their own. I love trying to figure out how they were distilled and really figure out the recipes. And it just led to saying, let's dive in and see what we can do and take it almost from a, chef in a kitchen perspective of let's create our own recipes and let's figure out how we can make these taste a little unique.
So I had something called the Zombarita?
The Zombarita. Yep.
And then what did I have upstairs a few hours ago?
Oh, upstairs in the Asylum Club, you had the Fungi Amongi.
And full disclosure, these tasted really good. So they were the right combination of this sweetness and the sugary and the sour kind of, but I feel like these are really unique drinks that I've never had before. Obviously the names are different, but even the taste is really different. It's something unique.
Well, Fungi and Mungi, oddly enough, it happened totally by accident. There was no recipe. We were sitting down coming up with some cocktail ideas, and I just started throwing things together in the glass, shook it up, and everyone, that worked here, that was with us for that initial night that we were going through what we were going to put on the menu, everybody had a taste of it and was like, oh my God, that's good. And like, I made it as a joke. I was like, there's too many flavors here, but it worked. Long story short of the name, silly enough that now both parents are in the conversation. My mother used to always make a joke about their, being fungi and mungi, that, there were people walking around with fungus. So they're like, what would you call it? I was like, I don't know, fungi and mungi.
Interesting.
And then you had our Zombarita. Oddly enough, both drinks are made with our Tortuga white rum, and it's all naturally flavored and really creates its own Caribbean in a bottle, and it lends itself really well for a lot of these cocktails, especially when you're kind of getting into the more fruity variation cocktails. So the fungi and mungi, you kind of had that like hit of sour apple. You had a little bit more coconut, and our Zombarita, you've got a little bit of a flavor of banana in there, pineapple, and even a hint of jalapeno. And that all comes from our Tortuga white rum.
And full disclosure, Tone did serve us up some shots in syringes,
Yep.
which I did have a little taste, but I'm not going to fully indulge until after this podcast. But you can even take home some of these tastes for yourself, because you do have bottles that people can purchase.
We bottle them up, and we have our Delusion vodka, Tortuga white rum, and Tortuga burn. And that really gave us the gamut we wanted to be able to have really, for the most part, a full cocktail bar. So I wanted to make sure that we had some base spirits that we could make almost everything with. And we are working on one more. We're hoping to have it released by holiday season, which is going to be our agave spirit. A lot of people are familiar with the factor of you cannot use the term tequila unless it's in Mexico. So we are going to be theming it to our zombie apocalypse and calling it Tequila Zombie.
Love that.
Get it? Get it?
I love that.
Tequila?
Yes.
Okay.
And you heard
Just
that
checking.
little teaser first here on Pocono Mountains podcast, so we're excited for that to come out. We should mention, Tone, that you are located in Fountain Court here in Bartonsville, which is in Monroe County, one of the 4 counties of the Pocono Mountains. And as you mentioned, Madness Distillery really came out of COVID and the pandemic, but you were here in Fountain Court prior to Madness Distillery open, because you also run Trapdoor, which is kind of this escape room experience on steroids, which you kind of gave us a preview of today. So tell us all about Trapdoor, because I feel like it is really unique.
Trapdoor, to put it bluntly, never truly fit the escape room tag. And as you said, it feels like it's on steroids. And back in 2015, escape rooms were just starting to open here on the East Coast. Prior to that, they really didn't exist here. They were over in Japan, and really more in that vicinity of the world. They were just making their way over to our side. And my wife and I went and played one, and it felt like we were playing a shorthanded version of something we were already doing for a few years. Because while I was working in other jobs, we were doing little side projects where we would rent out a facility for 2 months and run a one-off project just like what we do now. But it would have an endpoint because it was kind of like a little side hustle. And then once 2015 had come around and we saw it was picking up a little steam, we played one, and literally we left that facility and my wife said, we could do this 10 times larger than what we just saw. So we went to the Red Bank Food and Wine Festival in New Jersey. And while we were there, found a business building for lease that had a giant keyhole in the doorway. It was a locksmith. And we said, oh, this is perfect. And reached out. And I can very happily say that the landlords in Red Bank, the Bauer family, they have been synonymous with Red Bank for decades. And I would almost go as far as to say that they're some of our biggest supporters in this business. And especially John Bowers is been instrumental in quite a few of our expansions and decisions. And he has always been sitting there on the side as a cheerleader and helping us pursue this and kind of always just great guy. I can't say enough about him. And so they took over another building in Red Bank, and then we leased that from them. And so now we've got a fairly massive size facility there. But it really kind of stemmed from that. We just went in and did what we were already doing, which was multi-room, these super big, really almost immersive theater hybrid experiences. And we tried leaning a little more into the puzzles, but as time has gone on, it's just segued where people are way more into the immersive theater and immersive experience aspect than they really are into just come in, solve really hard puzzles, and time clock ends, leave. So now we've incorporated cocktails in, as we've seen here. We've incorporated casts into a lot of the experiences where now there's live actors performing all these different key roles. And essentially, it's become this whole new kind of form of entertainment.
Yeah, it's kind of its own genre, really.
A little bit.
So you have several locations here in the Pocono Mountains. All the different 4 themes of Trapdoor encompass 13,200 square feet of space. I mean, in this in this plaza alone, it's like you rent out half the plaza because you have so many rooms for these experiences. So you have 4 currently, 4 different experiences. 1 is Fear the Boogeyman, 2 is F5, 3 is Cure Z, and 4 is called We're All Mad Here. So a lot of people are into these kind of experiences, so I want to talk about them a little bit one by one. So if people are interested in booking, they can know what they're getting in for. So starting with the Fear the Boogeyman experience, what is that in a nutshell?
Well, you're paranormal investigators, and you're trying to recover missing children that were taken by the boogeyman. And you're heading into the rooms of these children who have already been abducted, and you're really following kind of the breadcrumbs in a trail left behind by the kids. So you first meet the family of the Wagners. So their son and daughter have gone missing, Alan and Lily. And Alan was preparing for the boogeyman because his sister was abducted first. So he wanted to kind of be this 10-year-old superhero and go save his sister. So you're following the clues that he left behind. And once you can get that closet to open, you're heading into the boogeyman's dimension. And at that point, all bets are off because fear might take over.
And it includes some, not to be a spoiler alert, but it includes some live actor integration, which, I mean, the hairs on my arms were standing up, and we had like that spook factor at one point from that room.
I don't believe there's any live actors in Boogeyman. I believe it's a very paranormal experience.
Oh, true. It could be. And then honestly, what was my favorite was the second experience, the F8.
F5.
F5, sorry, I'm bad with numbers. The F5 experience, that was really cool. So tell us about that.
So F5, named after the tornado scale. F5 being one of the worst possible tornadoes. Growing up, huge fan of the movie Twister. And now F5, oddly enough, used to be in our Morristown, New Jersey location. And when we were trying to come up with something different, at this point in time when F5 was being made, which was 2017, there were absolutely no outdoor-themed attractions in this genre of entertainment yet. And we wanted to try to make a kind of like a farm exterior inside. So we did our cornfield, and the other big element was, at the time, my kids weren't born yet, so I was at Trapdoor all the time, but also in the gym all the time. And I really wanted to do something really physical. And it caused a little stir behind the scenes because there was a lot of, our audience are not the type of people who want to get physical and climb things and lift heavy things and push heavy things. They want to solve their puzzles and keep it more low key. So I wanted to challenge that. And F5 really was the result of that. And it did so well. It's been rated one of the most immersive experiences in the world. And we had decided after that to really just take it to the next level. So F5 spawned our Catacombs of Paris experience in Red Bank, which is a 5,000 square foot maze filled with obstacles and physical challenges, more so than puzzles. And now what we're bringing to Wind Creek Casino is very physical. It's got a sword fight stunt show. It's got a raft that you float through in a zone in an underwater cave. And so we really dove all in on the physical aspect, and F5 was really the birth of that for us. So it was quite popular.
And it's really the real deal, because when we went through it earlier today, it is windy in there. There are so many fans, your hair's going all about. It even has this precipitation factor where for a short time, rain is coming down. It literally feels like an F5 would. It's pretty cool.
You're in it.
Okay, moving on to Cure Z. Tell us about that experience.
Cure Z is the experience that put us on the map. I have a very loving relationship with Cure Z. Cure Z was the second theme we made in Red Bank, and that was at a point in time where we devoted 2 floors of our building in Red Bank, which was at that time 2,000 square feet. It was small, but it was still quadruple the size of every other escape room that was out there at the time. So we had a lot of commentating from other escape room owners and people that worked at other competing locations, saying, Tone's going to put Trapdoor out of business. They're never going to survive. They're devoting this entire space to one theme. And sure enough, it became our best-selling game of all time. And still to this day, it books out on the weekends, and it has generated quite a bit for us. It's the first thing people tend to recognize us for. If they've played through a lot of our content, it's still a lot of people's favorites. And it's just an entire world of storytelling trapped in 2 hours. And it feels quite real. We've had tons of pharmaceutical companies play it and recognize real-life drugs that we had put into the game because they would have the registered effects that they have in the game in real life. And we kind of reverse engineered a zombie apocalypse. So much that in 2016, when we were designing Cure Z, I got held at an airport in Paris over internet search history and what we were looking up and researching in order to create the zombie apocalypse virus for the experience.
Oh my gosh.
And Cure Z at this point, in 2018, we moved it out here to the Poconos. And it's been here since. Last holiday season, we had just added some zombies to shoot at with airsoft rifles that are censored to the zombies. So it's always evolving. But that said, Cure Z is our single highest earning experience. It has done over $2 million in revenue since it opened in Red Bank in 2016. Wow. So it's pun intended, a monster.
And last but not least, the final experience here at the Poconos location is We're All Mad Here, which obviously by the title, people can guess what it's related to. That was really fun. Is that a big hit too?
It is. It's funny you'd say you could guess by the title. A lot of people who come in have never seen Alice in Wonderland or read the books or seen the Disney animated version or the live action, or across the board, they have no idea what it is. and it kind of still lends itself to entertaining them by kind of our twisted asylum take on it. So you don't really need to know the lore of it to understand what's going on inside. But if you do, it helps because you kind of have this, position to almost create comparisons from and see what's different with our version. Like Disney animated version, you have Tweedledee and Tweedledum. In our version, you have Tweedle, who has multiple personalities. It's all different variations.
What was the plot or the crisis that had to be overcome in that room?
Alice is scheduled for a lobotomy by the Red Queen. So it will metaphorically be off with her head. But quite literally, she's going to lose her head. So you need to prevent that from occurring and find enough evidence of all the evil doings of the Red Queen, who is the warden of the facility, in time to stop that lobotomy from happening.
And that experience was especially cool because we were literally crawling through tight spaces, like what was supposed to be the vents, crawling from one room through the vents into another room. I mean, the first experience we did, the fear of the boogeyman, we climbed under a bed and into another room. So this is really just something really unique, which is what I gathered from us going through all these scenarios today.
We have tried to make everything as truly lifelike as we possibly could, with safety concerns, of course. And so you can really feel like you're in these stories as real life character versions, performing the tasks you would have to perform, getting through the challenges you might really face in a safe manner where you know you're going to survive and go home. And it's really been kind of the driving force behind everything we do. It's when I was a little kid, I'd go see a movie or see whatever, and I'd always leave the movie theater going, I wish that was real. No matter what the situation was, I wish that was in real life something that could happen, because I could be the hero of that, and I would save us from zombies, and I would, I wanted to figure out a way to bring that fantasy world to life and allow people to have that kind of escape. And it really has been the perfect timetable of, we've got AI taking over everything, and everybody just walks around kind of glued into their phones. And my wife and I used to go into New York City all the time to go to comedy shows and out for dinner and drinks. And we'd walk around the city, and you'd always see everybody looking at the skyscrapers and the beauty of the city. And now we walk around and we just see everybody's walking into each other because they're just looking at their phone. And this provides an opportunity to just put the phone down and escape into a whole new world where all these crazy situations can occur and do occur, but you could survive them and get through them and live to tell the tale.
What keeps you going? Why do you love doing this so much?
I absolutely love watching the faces of people when they complete the challenges that we put forth. And even now with Madness Distillery, listening to them talk about it after and, have a few drinks and just really break down what they just went through. And one of my favorite types of groups to see come in is a lot of times, especially in the holiday seasons, we get multi-generational families that'll come in, and every year they come back and play whatever's new. And so we've now been in a position since 2015, because we get the same customers in Red Bank out here and in Morristown, and I'm sure we're going to get them all in Wind Creek. And so we've been lucky enough to build a following where a lot of our customers become diehard players, and they play every single game at every single location. And especially when we have those groups come back every year, to see them generationally age up. And it's a group that comes in and they've got their 12-year-old with them, then became 13, and then 14, and then 15, and then 16. Now they're adults. And we just recently had a group that came in, and normally we do not allow people to bring infants in. But we had a group that was coming with their family for years, and they just met people, got married in between, and had a baby. And we actually got to meet their babies. So it really is just you're building relationships with these groups that come through. And it's different. A a lot of the staff here love to entertain people.
Right.
And I think that's really all it comes down to. We just love to entertain.
And you have that live actor integration as well, which is really unique. Special things like crawling through vents and wind and this precipitation element. And also, not just the trapdoor experience, but also taking a break and coming to the distillery or doing that after your experience. It's just definitely something unique. Is there anything else that you want to let our listeners know about? I know Trapdoor is pretty much open 7 days a week. Currently, Madness Distillery is open weekends or is open after participants finish their experiences. You said obviously a great thing for team building as well. Different companies, groups, and organizations have booked with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've done team building events with the New York Jets. We've done team building events with, I think, almost every single pharmaceutical company in New Jersey at this point. We have companies that come in, and we've done events in Maryland. We've done events in New York. We've done events really all over, everywhere within probably about a 5 or 6 hour journey. So there's quite a bit of that, and we have all independent storylines and elements that we bring out to companies and run events at hotels and event centers and halls and offices and schools and all the like. So same thing. We just kind of love bringing the entertainment and entertaining. And I think a big element for us too is we love to get people out of their comfort zone. So a lot of, like when you guys were even playing Boogeyman, there was a lot of like, do we really have to do that? Do we really have to go under there? Do we, we see that every week. And yes, you do. You've got to do it. There's no getting around it. You're doing it. And we have events, and experiences where you have to dance. We have some where you have to sing. Our Greatest Freak Show experience in Morristown, you have to sing a ballad to the bearded lady. And if you don't, you can't move on. So it's all kinds of these, different elements where we want to get you as far out of your comfort zone as possible, and we're going to laugh right along with you.
Tone, what was your life prior to the Trapdoor and the Madness Distillery? Like, what did you do? Because I feel like people are listening and thinking like, this is so unique and niche and out of the box. Like, what is Tone's background?
There was life before Trapdoor. I oddly enough grew up in landscaping. My stepfather had a landscaping business that I grew up working with him in pretty much my whole childhood. And then I went to college for landscape architecture. So landscape architecture.
Interesting.
And I still blueprint and draft everything we build. So I still use the architecture part of the degree.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it was, ever since I was a kid, it was kind of undeniable I needed to be in some form of entertainment. I was part of the reason that our entire film production department in my high school got shut down because I took things a little too far. And I'll never forget, I ended up in the principal's office and I wound up suspended, but they called my stepfather in. And they said, are you aware of what your son had done and blah, 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 and what he brought in, what they did, and what they were shooting. And I just remember him going, yeah, but I mean, he's a bit of an extremist. So, nothing was harmful, but they ended up literally shutting our entire production class down, and I don't think they brought it back for about a decade.
But now you get to use that in your own niche way and share that with hundreds and thousands of visitors and locals in the Poconos and across all your locations.
Yep.
All right, so people can learn more about Madness Distillery over on PoconoBeverageTrail.com. And of course, Trapdoor is open 7 days a week. You encourage booking in advance, and if so, how can people do so?
100%. If you hit TrapdoorEscape.com, hit the booking page. All the locations are listed in the tab. And then we have video trailers of all of our games. We have photo stills of all of our games. Synopsis, breakdowns, fear factor, just in case you're worried about which games are scary and which games aren't, because they're not all scary. And difficulty levels and all those different elements, if there's live actors, if there's not. All of that is broken down on the pages. And we highly recommend that you do view those before making a booking, because a lot of times we'll have people that, we want to bring our 10-year-old to Jack the Ripper. No, not happening. We want to bring our 15-year-olds to Fear the Boogeyman. It's still a no, because the boogeyman might grab somebody or touch somebody, and it's not happening.
But you said earlier there's no live actors, so...
We can't control a supernatural presence. Whatever happens in the boogeyman stays in the boogeyman.
Okay, I respect that. All right, well, Tone, we've spent the last few hours here with you going through all these experiences, so thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I know, you probably have to get on going to one of your other locations, but how about we wrap up this episode of Pocono Mountains Podcast so we can finish sampling some of these drinks and these syringe shots.
Perfect shots.
All right, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Pocono Mountains Podcast. We're having a great time here. We'll see you next time.
Madness Distillery in Bartonsville, a great way to wrap up your immersive experience such as zombie survival training, all while enjoying spirits from madness. Find out more at madnessdistillery.com.
It's the Great Pocono Raceway Air Show, May 27th and 28th. See the U.S. Navy Blue Angels precision fly the F-18 Hornet. Then watch the greatest fighter in the world, the F-22 Raptor, rip up the sky. Tickets available at PoconoAirshow.com.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm Jim Hamill. We stopped by Trapdoor a couple years ago on Pocono Mountains Magazine, as well as Pocono Axe Works. Enjoy this flashback.
The adrenaline, the addictiveness to it, the adventure part of it, the challenge.
With a dozen lanes for axe throwing inside Pocono Axe Works near Hawley, it's the perfect indoor adventure for anyone looking to sharpen their throwing skills.
It's a very short learning curve on figuring it out. Everything is about finding your throw, and we have a number of experts, and that's what we call ourselves, who are really good at coaching.
Small groups have been coming out to Axe Works to escape the cabin fever this winter, spending an hour or two taking aim and discovering this hidden gem. It's a new venture for owner Mark Krauthamel, who has roped in some local breweries for weekly axe throwing leagues.
We did a fall league, so we've got a lot of locals that come back every week. We did it on Thursdays in the fall, and now it's a winter league, and it's on Wednesday nights. And what a community of guys and girls that are, they're hitting really high scores.
From high scores.
Error, wrong password.
To escape strategies, Trapdoor Escape in Bartonsville has been giving people of all ages a similar outlet during these past months, and it's not the escape room concept you might be familiar with.
We've always been story-based, objective-based, so our games are, Cure Z, find the cure, create the cure for the zombie apocalypse. F5 tornado escape, hunker down and get shelter from the incoming tornado. Fear the boogeyman, find the kids and rescue them from the boogeyman.
These 2,000 to 3,000 square foot experiences in a plaza along Route 611 are elaborate and involved. Players come from all around to experience these stories and find their way to the finish 7 days a week, even holidays.
They say right now we're in the experience economy, and I 100% believe that to be true. People have been locked down for a while, and people need escapism, and that's what we excel at, is escapism. We create worlds that you can go, escape in.
Owner Tony Przicki took us on a tour of F5, a tornado escape course where you have to survive the coming twister.
Uh-oh. We lost power.
There are realistic cornstalks and wind and puzzles hidden throughout this expansive game, and all of it is private to just you and your group.
People love that adventure, and the tornado escape, it's very physical, it's getting people active again and getting them into an environment where they can really push their boundaries a bit and forget the world outside of these doors.
2 hidden gems in the Poconos. 1, an escape.
Sometimes it takes a little bit to get your throw, to figure out what your throw is, and then once you figure it out, you don't want to stop.
The other, a way to release some energy in any season or any weather. Find Pocono Axeworks and Trapdoor Escape on PoconoMountains.com. Jim Hamill for the Pocono Television Network.
Trapdoor and Madness Distillery, the perfect combination for those who feel a bit mad. We hope you enjoyed Pocono Mountains Podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. Come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. Plan your trip today.